Mainland FM 98.3.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. Today is Friday, the 20th of October, 2023, and I'm certain that a lot of people are excited to just get the week over with, get into the weekend, rest, relax, distress, spend time with family, friends, and loved ones, and also have time to do other chores or side hustles, as it may be or as it may apply. But let's not forget that on Sunday the federal government will be closing the Third Mainland Bridge for repairs from Saturday 12 a.m. till Sunday 12 a.m. So put that into your plans. Very important. Let's have that in consideration while you're making your weekend plans. Very, very important. All right. And of course, we will be looking through the major stories on the front pages of our dailies. My name is Omobola Sandra. I won't be doing this alone. Fuhad Sahid will be joining in via the phone line to give analysis to the stories that we're going to be treating this morning. But through it all, there's just a lot that's happening across the world at the moment, and it can get very overwhelming. Yes, we understand that, but through it all, just stay strong and watch out for your loved ones, watch out for your family, friends, and loved ones. You don't know what anybody is going through. You don't know what anybody is holding in. You don't know what everyone is holding in. Somebody is going through something around you. So just be kind. The least you can do, or even if that's the most you can do to people around you, just be kind to someone. You don't have to know what they are going through. Just be kind. All right, let's get into it. Good morning, Fuhad. How are you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. Thank God it's Friday.
Oh, okay. Thank God it's Friday. I don't know why we're excited, but then we're just excited.
I like reminding you. Like Friday.
Thank you for the reminder. I appreciate it. All right, but I hope as you're reminding me, you just give me some palliatives that will help me enjoy my Friday and enjoy the weekend.
Of course, well, it's a good time at least for the weekend, even though we'll still be working. At least the feel good, feeling that comes with it, it's still enough, Just revving the fact that it's Friday and we'll have some time to at least take some rest. Not the usual weekday activities that comes with Lagos. So it's a good time to at least rest, take some rest.
Yes, very, very important, especially Lagosians, eh? All right. Thank you very much, Fuhad. Let's get into the stories for the day. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. You're listening to Trends in the Papers. We'll look through the major trending stories from now up until 8:30, and then by 8:30 we move on to by 8:30 we take a break, and then by 8:40 we move on to Mainland Focus, where we'll be looking through 2 or more major trending stories, where you also share your thoughts and your contribution as regards these stories. Now let's move on. I'll start with the Guardian newspaper, and the major headline on the front page of the Guardian: Varsities sad tales of underfunded, understaffed medical centers. Oh, here we go. So, over the years, some university students have lost their lives while seeking urgent care at medical centers located in their various institutions. And this is no thanks to the poor service delivery in such facilities, or lack of drugs, or even lack of prompt attention. While students have protested against poor service delivery by their institutions, medical centers, some of them have boycotted the service outrightly, and they are now seeking medical comfort elsewhere. So as it is now, there are the conditions, or the conditions prevalent in varsity clinics are basically what this particular story is all about. I remember there's a particular story that made rounds in Edo State in Benin, where they took a student to the clinic. Oh man, I don't even want to know. Well, they took a student to the clinic or medical center, and something happened, they were not, they didn't have the right equipment. Okay, then referred the person to some another place. They were not attending to the students because of one very interesting reason or the other, and then unfortunately the student passed. There's so many instances like that. We have one at Usman Danfodio University Sokoto Health Center, where some frustrated students have been seen whispering to themselves in frustrated tones due to the fact that their friends are not being, attended to. Most students who visit the clinic, had to leave, disappointed because their conditions even get worse when they go over there. So, on the funding of our medical centers of institutions, what are your thoughts, Fuad? Is it ignorance, or do you think it's something that the federal government should look into, or even the school administration itself should do something about, or maybe it's just why do schools have medical centers?
You know what, Sandra? I read through that story this morning. I think about 5 reporters of the Guardian newspaper put that story together. A very brilliant story. Very brilliant.
More than 5. I think they're almost 7. Yeah, I'm with you.
I know that. And I think they have to do that because it is touched on so many schools across the country.
Yes.
And basically what the story was about was to capture the state of our universities, our institutions, limiting that focus to medical centers in those facilities. Sandra, it's unfortunate. Again, whatever the story captured was, bringing to the fore the realities of our tertiary institutions, our universities, polytechnics, the fact that, look, they are heavily underfunded. So because again, I'm like, okay, why did the editors of the guidance paper decide to focus on medical centers? Yes, healthcare for students of tertiary institutions is also very important. But I'm like, the reality is that our tertiary institutions are not well funded. So even if you can't fund libraries, you can't build adequate classrooms, lecture halls, you can't pay lecturers well, you can't fund research universities. I think the list of worries of administrators of universities would be the medical center, even though it's supposed to be something very important. But what I'm saying is that story simply just again highlights the fact that, look, a lot of our tertiary institutions are glorified secondary schools. That become even the so-called big universities, federal universities. Go to UNILAG, University of Lagos, Sandra. Check out their hostels. Look at the living conditions of students in those schools. You understand what I'm saying? Go to IFE. Go to University of Ibadan. Go check out the hostels. Go into their restrooms and see the conditions of those places. And so a lot of the medical centers are just existing. What the story says is that, look, there are even no medical personnel to attend to anybody. There are no drugs there. So the students go there and live out of frustration because there's nothing really, that happens in those places. So they are just there for the sake of, we have a medical center in those schools. So again, if you ask me a question, is it the problem of the federal government or the school administrators? Yes. The school administrators can look into it, but where will the funds come from? And I'm sure if you tell the government now, they will tell you that's why they're advocating for financial autonomy for schools, so that they can have enough money to fund projects like that. But I'll say that, look, one of the easiest ways to touch the lives of ordinary people in a nation that is so blessed like Nigeria, sure, free and qualitative education at all levels. I say it again, Sandra, if we prioritize some of these things, the Nigerian government can fund free and qualitative education for Nigerian students at all levels. It's just about priority. You tell them now, they'll say there's no money to fund those things, but there's enough money to buy brand new SUVs for our lawmakers. Sandra, there's enough money to upload the size of government.
Go into that one, I beg.
I'm just saying, the argument will come now that the government cannot fund tertiary education. That's the argument that will come, that there's no money. Anything that concerns the poor people, there's no money. Anything that concerns the poor people, it will cause inflation. But anything that is about the political and their luxury lifestyle, no, it will not cause inflation. There's money to do that. You explain at these tough times of our economy, buying 360 SUVs at 160 million naira each for our lawmakers. But that one will not cause inflation.
Fuad, I'm more concerned here because there are a lot of students who have pre-existing medical conditions that would require medical checkup. For example,
Centers cannot handle
that's the major concern because you fill all these forms and then they ask you, do you have any pre-existing medical condition? So that maybe situation. See, Fuad, let's just put it in perspective like this. It's say, for example, look at me. I have a pre-existing medical condition, and when I got into school, it was one of the reasons or one of the factors that was used to determine the kind of room I'll be given, the kind of roommates I'll be given, whether I'll be put on top floor or the second floor, and all of that. So, if we have students who have pre-existing medical conditions going to school, and then you don't have, a health center. We're not even talking about hospitals here, all right? We're not even talking about we're talking a health center for basic things such as stitching of wound, first aid. What first aid?
You will not understand. You didn't go to the kind of school we attended. It's different.
No, but
I know you can't understand what the story is about. It's strange to you.
But that is where I'm going. That is where I'm going. That I can't begin to imagine. What about students who have pre-existing medical conditions before going to school?
Their parents will have to take care of them because again, I understand. The university you attended, the fact that they were so detailed about pre-existing medical conditions, which hotels to allocate to you. I'm sure they have a very functional medical center, at least to provide some first aid, and then if it becomes a big problem, then take you to a bigger medical facility. But in this government-run school, nothing is happening. That's what the story is saying. The medical centers are just structures existing without anything. You understand? And what I'm saying is that, look, go to most of the universities now. It's not just the medical center that has problems. The lecture halls are not, they are probably, look, there are a lot of universities that don't even have power supply for months. So the students have to go into crammed up, overcrowded classrooms. Now that the rains are going, and then I'm sure the dry season is coming. People have eat. They have to fan themselves. Sometimes you have students who are also hanging by the window to just listening to lectures. You understand what I'm saying? So those basic things that should ordinarily not be a problem for the government, and that's why I'm saying that the argument will now come that the government cannot fund these things again. And I say that the government can fund it if they make it a priority. It is just that it's not the government's priority. Their priority is about taking care of themselves and overapproaching the size of government. Appoint everything, the one that's needed or not needed. Look at the appointments we are having now. Now we have 48 ministers to do what exactly? The ministers will have PA and SAs, SAs are having SAs, they will have PAs, they rent offices. The reality is that, look, as people, we are still not ready to tell ourselves the home truth about what governance should be. Governance is about the people, not about the people in government. So what I'm saying, Sandra, is that these things can be done. It's just that we have not made it a priority.
Well, thank you very much, Fuad. It's just very unfortunate a lot. And the unfortunate thing about this, Fuad, is the fact that it's not just students that are going through this, because the staffing members of the school also have to use these medical centers. Am I right or wrong?
I know the thing is that, again,
the staff of the school also use these centers. That's just what I'm trying to highlight here. So it's not just the student that are suffering this this particular issue here. The staff of the school, they also should have access to basic healthcare within the school premises, at least for first aid.
That's the standard, Sandra. You're talking about what the standard should be. At least there has to be a medical facility that can take care of basic health concerns of students and even staff of the school. Ordinary secondary schools have it now. The normal secondary schools.
So it's not just students that are suffering this issue. The staff members are also suffering.
Staff members they're also suffering it. I'm sure a lot of them will not even bother to go to the medical center. If anything happens, they just run out to go and take care of themselves. I'm sure a lot of the students don't even bother with the medical center.
Well, that's the story. That's the major story on the front page of the Guardian newspapers. Varsities, sad tales of underfunded understaffed medical centers, and we have quite a number of schools where they had to go in and check what exactly is going on there. You have Unilag, where you have poor attitude of carers. That's the problem at Unilag. We have Bayero University, Kano, where, well, they seem to have a slightly different story to tell. It seems they have a functional facility at Bayero University, as they have 3 clinics. Oh, that's interesting. They have 3 clinics that offer general services, dental, eye care, lab, X-ray and pharmacy. But then that can be said for Unical, that's University of Calabar, where there's shortage of beds, drugs and tests. We have BSU, that's Benue State University, no doctors, no equipment. So what exactly? It's just a building. Well, we also have Ekiti State University, where we have overwhelmed staff, who usually give wrong diagnosis of oh, Lord have mercy. And then we have UI, University of Ibadan, where you have the brain drain seriously affecting University of Ibadan, inadequate manpower, where doctors have relocated abroad for greener pastures. We have the Adekunle Ajasin University, Akungba Akoko. We have Federal University of Technology, Akure. Those ones don't take emergencies at all. So if you have an emergency, just look for a hospital nearby. You have University of Maiduguri. They are only open between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m.
They try now. They don't try.
That's interesting. So if anything happens to you after 11 a.m., well, look for a hospital nearby. That's basically what I want. Then you have University of Nigeria. Yes, that's Nnamdi Azikiwe University, where the clinic is a no-go area for a lot of students. And the report goes on and on. You can get more details on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspapers. Sad tales of underfunded and understaffed medical centers. It's very unfortunate. Well, moving on from that story now, we have this here, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Hashtag EndSARS. Activists lament non-implementation of probe panel recommendations. So, 2 things define the year 2020, and that was the year of COVID-19 pandemic, and also the campaign against police brutality. So, but then as regards the hashtag EndSARS protest and all of that, there's a lot of conversations as regards that one. The very unfortunate stories that surrounded that particular
Today marks the, would I call it, anniversary of the shooting at the Lekki.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, October 20.
20, yeah.
All right. So going on that particular, writing on that particular story, there was, just as Fuhad had highlighted now, October 20, 2020, there was some sort of climax on that day as regards the leading up from the hashtag EndSARS protest, where the Nigerian army and the police opened fire on peaceful unarmed protesters gathered at Lekki toll gate in Lagos. And from that day, there was a lot that has happened since that day. There was the police inquiry, there was the panel that went on, and all of that. Now, despite the setting up of federal and state panel of inquiry that were headed by credible retired judges to investigate and make recommendations, the various reports that emanated became a subject of dispute between the governments that set it up and members of the probe panel, while recommended actions have been jettisoned. Say, for example, the Lagos state government was recently forced to suspend its planned mass burial of 103 bodies. Fuad, I don't know if you remember.
I remember, yes.
There were some, the report that there were some bodies from the, controversy was there. So the government said there were no shooting, there was no bodies. But then this year, 2023, earlier this year, there was a report of the planned mass burial of 103 bodies recovered from that particular one.
I know it was shocking, Sandra, because when the news came that the government had 103 bodies.
103.
As a result of the EndSARS protest. So the question was whether they were from the Lekki toll gate. What the government is saying that, look, these were bodies placed across the state. after the shooting had happened.
Well, you know, there were letters. There was a letter, you know, and there was even money that was allegedly paid to a certain funeral house to ensure that this was done.
That's what I'm saying. You know, the controversy on the number of bodies was where exactly were these bodies picked from the Lekki toll gate or across the state as a result of what followed the shooting at the Lekki toll gate. You know, after the shooting at the Lekki toll gate, there was chaos across the state. In Fagba, Ogba, Ojodubega, the buses that were burnt at Yaba, you know, Igondo, all parts of all manner of clashes and all of that, and people died. So what the government was saying is that these bodies were picked across the different states. But the shocking thing was that, look, the government in 2 years still had 103 bodies as a result of the NSAT, and of course the announcement. You know, it was a leak, Sandra. That memo was leaked. It wasn't as if it was.
Yes, it was a leaked memo in July. Yeah. Yes. It
was a leaked memo, and of course that I think somehow it caused some embarrassment to the government, and so they have to explain how they came about 103 bodies as a result of the NSAT protest. But you know, if you look through this story very well, Sandra, what this story is even saying is that, look, there were different panels set up that made different recommendations. One of the key recommendations from all of the panels at the federal and state level was the reform of the police.
And nothing has been done. Nothing is being done.
Nothing has been done. Police harassment, extortion, you know, and if you the police are still out there harassing people, they are still extorting the people. It's still the same of the same. So all of the things that led to the protest in the first place has not been addressed. Well, even though the different panels have made good recommendations as to how the police could be reformed to ensure that does not happen again. So nothing has been done.
Well, thank you very much. There's just a whole lot to take away from that particular one. Aside from police reform, there was also the plan to set up human rights agencies. Yes, however, no state government has set up a human rights agencies. But there's so many recommendations, just as Fuad has highlighted, so many recommendations, so many observations from that particular one, and what exactly has been our takeaway. Fuad, I'm sure you also know that the planned mass burial has also been suspended. So what exactly is happening to those bodies, or what has happened to those bodies?
They will be in the morgue, and I think the government, I don't know why the government decided to suspend. Well, maybe because of the concerns raised as to the identity of those.
I wish I remember the amount of there was this money. There was
the money that was also collected. You know,
there was a.
Do you remember
there was
the
a figure? It's the figure I'm trying.
Like that.
Yes, it's the figure I'm trying to remember now, because that was also part of the controversy. The amount that was disbursed or that was approved, because it was not, we don't know if it was disbursed, but that was budgeted or that was set aside and approved for the mass burial. Yes. All right. But then if we look at the writers that this report is giving us, we have here Falano, police reforms announced in aftermath of #AgensUs protests were panic measures. We also have here perpetrators escaping accountability over slow pace of justice. We also that's come from Reno. We also have police brutality, extortion persists in civil land matters. PSC, lessons have been learnt. Police taking citizens' complaints seriously. I think that's why we'll now hang, this conversation now. Have lessons truly been learnt, Fuad?
No, we don't know lessons learnt, Sandra. It's still every other thing that happened before the protest itself, it still persists. If you look at the riders, Sandra, every other thing has been said. Nothing has changed. The police, except for maybe one or two situations where you see them, understanding that there's now citizen journalism that can expose them easily. But you still have police officials doing what they do, the harassment, the extortion, everything is still there. We'll continue to talk about police reform, what we need to do to reform the police. And as it is, like Femi Falana said, whatever was done at that time was just panic measures. It was not really intentional. That's why if you don't do anything out of clear intentions and purposefulness, you just do it, and at the end of the day, it does not endure. So again, we have a situation where the police the way it was before the NSAS protest.
All right, then. Thank you very much for Hannah. I think that's just takeaway basically from this is the fact that activists are lamenting non-implementation of pro-panel recommendations, and if truly have there been any shift from the norm after the hashtag #EndSARS protest, or is it just like Falana has said that whatever was announced then were just panic measures, and even up till now? Because it was after that we had the very unfortunate shooting of Barrister Bolanle, who lost her life last year on December 25.
And Sandra, remember that the Lagos State government even disagreed with his own panel. The recommendation of the panel is set up.
The white paper.
Even the white paper that was not agree with the report of the panel is set up to look into the case. So a lot that we'll still continue to talk about on this #EndSARS protest, the post-#EndSARS protest, the shooting at the Lekki toll gate, and how to ensure we position our police, to be the pride of the nation. Policing should be something that makes the people comfortable, and not that SARS becomes a form of threat to the people. As it is, I don't think Nigerians are very comfortable with the kind of policing we have.
Well, I strongly doubt that October 20 would ever be erased from the minds of youths or Nigerians generally, victims or family members of victims of police brutality across the country. Today is October 20, and having that conversation, I think it only just makes absolute sense of if or whether the recommendations or anything lessons learned or takeaways from that, or did it just happen, or did people just inconvenience themselves, or did people just inconvenience themselves for nothing? Well, the story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here no respite for Nigerians as petrol scarcity bites harder in Abuja, Lagos, and others. So, Fuad.
Scarcity has returned, Sandra. Filling stations now have queues.
That's very, very unfortunate. There's a lot of unfortunate situations that we have found ourselves in Nigeria in recent times. But then
I was asking you yesterday whether these are leaders read the papers at all. I asked her.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was prop. I don't know if it was prop. But we usually see pictures of our presidents having dinner or having breakfast, and then we see papers in front of them, or we see papers on the table. I don't know if it's props, but I mean, just as Sage said, we can't be giving you such huge amount of money for newspaper allowance, and
buy it.
No, they buy them. They buy them. But did they read them?
Read the papers?
Yes, did they read them?
You know something, perception, Sandra. When you read something, the interpretation is now determined by what you think you want to see.
It's very subjective.
Very subjective. You can read and interpret the way you want to interpret it. So when you say, queues are returned to Lagos, you say, no, there are no queues. Those are just people who want to go into panic buying.
No, but Fuad, if they don't read the papers, they listen to the radio. If they don't listen to the radio, they watch the news on TV. And if they don't watch the news on TV, they should go out there and look and see what people.
I'm still talking about selective perception that makes you interpret whatever you're reading or seeing the way you want to interpret it. That's what I'm saying. That, for example, if they pick the papers now, our politicians are leaders, and they see there that queues are returned to our filling stations, what they will say, if they want to interpret it to suit their ego, is to say, no, those are not queues. Those are just people who want to go into the filling station, who are engaged in panic buying. That look, there's no need to panic. It's because of panic buying that the queues are returned. That's what they will tell themselves. And they move on with their lives and say, look, it's not a problem. Nigerians are just the ones causing themselves problems. You don't understand what I'm saying? There's no queue now. You have enough supply. And the NNPC, look, even when we had about 3 months of scarcity, did you remember that military and NNPC was telling us that they had enough supply? That the reason why they are queued is because of panic buying.
All right then. The scarcity of PMS, popularly known as petrol, has resurfaced in some parts of the country, noticeably Abuja and Lagos. And this may further compound the woes of Nigerians who are currently battling lack of healthy diets. Oh my goodness. It's a healthy diet. Guardian is just interesting. Is it battling lack of healthy diet due to rising inflation, forex challenges to do business, poor electricity supply amidst rising insecurity across Nigeria? So we have Abuja, Lagos, Benin, Oshogbo, Ibadan, and other cities that have been monitored, the situation is becoming far worse amidst the current administration's poorly planned subsidy removal, as most fuel stations are currently shut. All right. I mean, I don't know what, I really don't know what business owners and manufacturers across the country are going to be saying by the year end, because 2023 has been quite a trying year for a lot of business owners and manufacturers. Honestly, if we're looking at it, aside from the fuel issue, I mean, the year started off with a cashless policy, where you can't hold cash, and so many conversations around that, and change of cash, or change of cash redesign, or naira redesign, or whatnot. And then we moved from that one, we moved to deadline of hello, what?
I'm with you.
Okay. From that, we moved from that to deadline of how long you can hold your old cash or not, to businesses being scared of doing business with people, whether or not their cash will still be available. Then we moved to fuel subsidy is gone on May 29, 2023. And then we moved to unification of Forex, and then we moved to poor, terrible electricity supply. This year we had, for the 100th time in 8 years, the grid collapsed. And then we also have insecurity issues. So many problems bedeviling the country at this time. And I'm just wondering how business owners and manufacturers at this time are surviving and making ends meet. And now the most current one now, Fuad, is inflation. Which is where, yes, 26.7, which is where, a healthy diet is coming from. I can't afford to. No, yes, now, Fuad, because when you can't afford to buy, what's supposed to compose of a balanced diet. So you just buy what you can afford. And in this case now, I don't even know. What can people afford now, Fuad? Even Gary is expensive. I don't know.
But the government is sharing rice and beans now, Gary. Are they not?
What?
I'm asking now, Sandra.
I forgive you. I forgive you.
If you read through that story, Sandra, on that particular story of queues returning to our filling stations in Abuja and different parts of the country, two major things account for this. The mismanagement of the subsidy removal announcement and the Forex problem.
Yes.
The problem of Forex.
Yes.
Two issues that, and until now, Sandra, those two policies of government, there are still no clear directions from the government as to what they want to do to stem the tide. You understand? There's nothing coming. Okay, you remove subsidy back or not, you are leveraging on the NNPC as the sole importer, even though you tell us that it's a deregulated market. What is it? There are no plans, Sandra. There's nothing from the government. There's this dead silence that comes from the government, and it's clear indication that really they may not even know what to do. The same thing is the dollar problem. Sandra, the naira is on a free fall to the dollar. As it is now, in the parallel market is already selling for like 1,100 naira. How did we get to this point? And you are still seeing a complete silence from the government. There's still no policy direction. You are still seeing a situation where the government is still doing the normal thing, buying SUVs and making appointments, living the normal life. I think we have an emergency, Sandra, but I don't see an indication of emergency from our leaders on this current condition. The manufacturers are talking almost every day. If you read through the papers, they are complaining. Their products are staying too long on the shelf. Cost of production is going up. They are laying off staff to remain in business. We have an emergency here, Sandra. I'm not sounding alarmist, but that's the reality of Nigerians at this time. But look on the other side of the divide for people in government. Do you see that sense of urgency in them? Now the queues are bad. As I speak to you, some people are already buying at 700 naira per liter because of the queue. If you read through the story, they said in Abuja now, black marketers are selling for like 1,000 naira per liter. Again, the price of food oil is rising, whether we like it or not. This disruption in the Middle East will make the price hit over $100 per barrel anytime from now. We are still not refining. No clear policy as to how we are going to ensure local refining. Everything is just silent as if everything is normal. Whereas Nigerians are suffering.
Thank you very much for rightly put. Just as you have, properly analyzed that particular situation. As it is now, some fuel stations are managing to open. Black marketers are on the rise at the moment. We have black marketers dispensing fuel for as much as 1,000 naira per litre, especially in Abuja. And as it is now, the marketers are even still coming out. That's, the independent marketers are still raising concern about the downturn of the deregulation of the downstream sector. They're also still looking at there's a need for the federal government to make foreign exchange available at a subsidized rate. They're also looking at the fact that the truth is the current pump price does not reflect market realities, adding that the NNPCL has maintained a dominant role due to lack of forex. So due to the fact that marketers are unable to access the I&E window. So at this point now, things are really difficult, not just for consumers,
Sandra,
but even marketers.
Where are the market forces now that they told us about? The lies of market forces they told us. I told you there was no market forces. What we have is incompetence. What we have is corruption. What we have is lack of vision. Okay, where are the market forces now? When you deregulate the sector and you have a dominant player and others cannot access forex at the I&E window. In one breakdown, you ask them in government now, they will tell you they floated the dollar, the naira. And then you have two windows and you have that kind of gap. Currently, at the I&E window, you are still selling for around 700 to 800 naira to a dollar. Whereas in the black market, it's selling for 1,100. That margin itself, creates room for serious corruption and racketeering. And a lot of speculation too. So you ask yourself, when these policies were announced by government, did anybody sit down to think it through? Were there enough stakeholder engagement? Were there enough professional input to look at some of the things that will come with the policy and how to arrest them should they come up? It shows that there was no thinking up an issue before these policies were announced. And the confusion of the government is evident as to what to do about it.
Thank you very much. For more details, of course, on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper. No respite for Nigerians as petrol scarcity bites harder in Abuja, Lagos, and other cities across the country. Finally, from the Guardian newspaper this morning, we're looking at Tinubu revokes Imam's nomination as former chairman and appoints CEOs for parastatals. Man, the village people of this guy
the appointment happened in the first place,
has gone. They have really gone foul. Well, it's just very unfortunate.
Now the appointment has now been. How did the appointment? We talked about this young man who just finished NYSC, no experience to work in a whole big agency like FEMA. So my question is, how did the appointment happen in the first place?
Well, everybody who had one problem or the other with the appointment of Kashim Imam as chairman of board of directors of FEMA can take chill pills now, as his nomination has been revoked by the president yesterday. Let's not forget that the appointment of 24-year-old fresh graduates sparked a lot of reactions across the country. So I sincerely hope that one way or the other, everybody can, take chill pills now, and we can all move on with our various lives. But it's just unfortunate that, the village people of this guy, of this young man, apologies for that, the village people of this young man, they succeeded. That's just, he got disappointment, and then now it's been revoked. But aside from that, the president has also approved the appointment of 8 new chief executive officers for parastatals and agencies under the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. We have National Orientation Agency, NOA. We have Larry Issa Onilu for NTA. The DG is now Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos. For FRCN, we have Dr. Mohammed Bulama. For the NBC, we have Mr. Charles Ebuebu. Others are Voice of Nigeria. The DG is now Jibrin Baba Ndas. We have ARCON, that's Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria. The DG is now Dr. Lekon Fadolapo. For NAN, that's News Agency of Nigeria, the MD CEO is Ali Mohammed Ali. And for Nigerian Press Council, the Executive Secretary is now Dili Ezuga. Yes, I hope I got that correctly. Those are the new CEOs for these parastatals. All right, well, moving ahead from that particular story, the story is on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, we wish young Mr. Imam all the best.
Go and learn. They really want to give it to him in government. There are different places where he can start to learn, the functions of government. He's too young and inexperienced to occupy that kind of position. And I'm shocked that the Bola Tinubu presidency was making that kind of mistake. It's shocking to me.
It's
One had thought that it was going to be a organized presidency.
They have revoked him. They have removed.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's okay. This poor young man, who started life on a very big note, and now, everybody's mouth has now.
This is not about Hashim or what's his name. It's about the nation. It's about the interest of the people.
I know. I understand. Yes. It's just very unfortunate. But I'm sure there'll be other duties that can be assigned him for him to be able to serve.
And even work in SEMA, learn through the ropes. Learn the process of not just on the head of SEMA just like that.
Well, and finally, just run through the Guardian newspaper. We have Supreme Court to hear articles appeal on Monday. That is on page 3. We also have here, poor leadership may cause World War III, says Afe Babalola, and that is on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on very quickly, this is still trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos, and we're looking through major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We are moving on now to the Punch newspaper. Thank you very much to everyone who is joining us via Facebook and YouTube. We see your messages, but we'll take them during Mainland Focus. All right? Yes, thank you. Now, major headline on the front page of the Punch: fuel scarcity. NNPCL marketers disagree over supply as queues spread. No supply from NNPCL for over 1 month. Ex-depot price hits 605 naira, and that's coming from Ipman. Stop panic buying. There's sufficient product. NNPCL assures Nigerians. So, whose report do we believe? We shall believe the report of blood.
Now, Ipman is saying they've not gotten supply.
For over a month.
The ex-depot price has gone to a particular point, the reason for the queue. NNPC is telling that it's panic buying. People are just panicking. Why would I panic to buy? If every filling station is selling, you can see the denial, the affront, the brazenness by which some of these. Look, Sandra, okay, what is the cause of the queue now? There are a lot of filling stations who are not selling. So the few that are selling, you have buyers who are going to queue there. So it means that there's a shortfall in supply. That's the reason for. So you say you have enough, but a lot of filling stations are not selling, and then you now say it's panic buying. Would people just order? Even when now that there's no money, would anybody go and buy out of panic now? The reality is that there's a shortfall in supply, and the NNPC needs to admit that. But now, I told you they will tell you it's panic buying. So if the president now calls them and say, why are the queues back? And they say, don't worry, Mr. President. People are just panicking. We have enough. We'll be supplying them. That's what they will tell me.
Which is why Ipman is speaking out now, because on Thursday, dealers under Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria stated that they have been finding it tough to access petrol from the NNPCL for more than 1 month. Let's not forget that Ipman controls over 70% of retail stations that dispense PMS nationwide. And currently, many outlets operated by Ipman members are shut due to lack of products to dispense.
No, it's panic buying, Sandra. They are not short. They are selling. It's not that you don't know.
Yeah, but for what?
You said it's panic buying.
For what? The National Public Relations Officer of Ipman say many depots are dry. The NNPCL normally keeps products in its storage that are meant to be on ground for duration before fresh products come in. But as we speak, the stored products are exhausted. And as well,
they said they have enough for Sandra. Okay, who do you want to believe now? Ipman and these stakeholders or NNPC? Which one would you want to believe?
Oh, asking me.
I'm asking. You are reading the papers. I just told you that they will say it's panic buying. And I know there's no panic anywhere. There's a shortfall in supply that the NNPC needs to admit to. So whatever they've been doing, all of this silence as to what has been happening with supply, subsidy payments, leveraging on the NNPC. Now, SAT, you're still now. The reality is dawning on us that we are just managing. There's a crisis that we have been covering.
Well, the NNPCL on Thursday said it was aware of the appearance of fuel queues in some parts of Lagos and other locations across the country. And they said this is due to reduced depot loadout in Apapa, Lagos over a few days. That's what NNPCL is saying, that this is due to reduced depot loadout.
What is it for the reduced loading?
And the root cause has since been addressed, is they are saying, and I'm quoting now, "We assure all Nigerians that there is ample supply with the sufficiency of at least 30 days. Motorists are advised to desist from panic buying as distribution will normalize over the next couple of days." And that's what they posted on their X handle, that's formerly Twitter.
Nigerians desist from panic buying. Let us help them to re-echo that statement.
Exactly. Thank you, Fuad. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. NNPCL says, no, don't worry. Take 2 pills. Everything is fine. No need for panic. Yes, that's
the one causing queue.
It's okay. It's all right. Well, we wish ourselves all the best. The story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on from that particular story, we have here. Oh, well, above the masthead of the Punch, no, no, there's not much story. Anyways, those are we've already looked through the major stories across the papers. Yes, Supreme Court begins articles appeal against Tinubu on Monday. That's also on page 2. INEC defends 2023 polls, says 712 petitions have been dismissed. That is on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here Israel, Hamas, US, UK, Germany ask citizens to leave Lebanon. There's some spillover happening at Lebanon, Lebanese border. So the US, the UK, and Germany have asked their citizens in Lebanon to leave the country now. All right, moving on to Nigerian Tribune. Still trends in the papers. The major headline there: Tinubu. Supreme Court hears Atiku Obi APM's appeals on October 23rd, and that is on Monday. The story is on page 4 of Nigerian Tribune. We also have here, NLC accuses Labour Minister of partiality in handling NURTW crisis. That story is on page 4 of Nigerian Tribune, between NLC and Simon Lalong. Yes, as regards NURTW. Moving on now, we also have here Bayelsa poll. I bear no grudge against Diri, and that's coming from Dixon. Okay, the story is on page 18. Also, Ohaneze backs amnesty for gunmen to stop killings and destruction in Southeast. Amnesty. That's on page 12. For gunmen.
For criminals and killers of the people. Again, that's the problem with precedents. We've granted amnesty before.
That is there's no going back.
So everybody wants amnesty now for committing crime against the state, for killing innocent people.
That's interesting.
You can see where we are. You can see how bad we run the country. So every criminal now, after committing crime against the state,
don't worry. We'll just grant you amnesty.
Or we'll advocate amnesty for you. Look at where we are, Sandra. Very unfortunate.
The story is on page 12 of Nigerian Tribune. We also have here on the front page of Nigerian Tribune, APC PDP fight over call for Akeredolu's impeachment. And that story is on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune.
Those statements, prayers, Sandra. Nothing is happening in that state. No leadership, no focus, no everything. The center can no longer hold in that state. And it's unfortunate that we have...
How can the center of Ondo State hold when the center is in Oyo State? The center is being held in Oyo. The center is being held in Ibadan. So, I mean, just cut, this man some...
And amidst all of this confusion, governance suffers in that state. It's one of the states that is poorly run. I have a few friends who are from Ondo State, poor infrastructure, despite being an oil-producing state. And now you have a governor who a lot of us are thought to live above board because of his background as a senior advocate of Nigeria, someone who understands the law. And again, someone who is battling something that one would have thought would at least appeal to his conscience to do the needful and step aside so that the state can make progress. But here you have political gladiators, everybody fight. And it's not about the goodness of the state, though. It's just all about political interest.
Well, As it is now for over 6 months, let's not forget that Ondo State has been on autopilot. For a few months, the governor was not around. He came back, and then when he came back, he's still not in the state. He's in another state, running the state from another state. And, the deputy governor who's supposed to, be making things happen is also embattled at the moment with some political scuffles. So the back and forth between the APC and the PDP as regards the call for Akeredolu's impeachment, you can get the story on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune. That's all we can take for this morning on trends in the papers. Those were the major trending stories, by the way. We'll take a short break now and we'll be back by 8:40 for Milan Focus, where you, our dear listener, gets to be a part of the conversation. All right, so stay with us. This is still Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Mainland 98.3 FM.